again with Horror with Marchese and Buller. We have Madeleine Swann on today. And, hey, Madeleine.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm a little sick, but I'm doing good. New York weather's not too good right now.
Yeah, it's quite Halloween, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. I actually went pumpkin picking yesterday with my daughters.
I picked out it was very adorable.
It was so cool. Though. I think it does make for a really good pictures in the middle of this field with like yellow, white, orange pumpkins everywhere and vines and stuff in the blue sky. It's really sort of picturesque almost. But I love Halloween. I suppose it's horror. Would.
I'd love to go to a pumpkin patch. I've never done that. I've just usually got one from Tesco.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm kind of interested to know actually, Madeline, when you were little, did you always have pumpkins growing up, or did you use turnips and Swedes and stuff?
Well, turnips they're kind of a aren't they sort of a more traditional thing, like in the West Country or somewhere like that? I think turnips are traditional in a particular place. Like I can't remember if it's Wales or I can't remember, but no, we've always done pumpkins.
Yeah, how strange. I always had. I don't know what like Americans tend to have like their own names for certain vegetables, don't they, and stuff. And I think it's like over in America it's like called rutabaga. I don't. It's like we call it a Swede. It's like a little miniature turnip. Yeah. But I always had a Swede, and I never had pumpkins till I was like in my mid-teens.
No.
It might just be a northern thing.
I mean, a pumpkin's like a squash, no?
Yeah.
So I mean,
yeah, it is.
But is a turnip like a squash, or is that like too small?
Turnips are long, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're almost like
no turnips. No, because Baldrick always goes on about turnips, doesn't he?
Yeah, Blackadder. Yeah,
that was a mistake. They actually wanted to say parsnip, I think, didn't they?
That's the parsnip's a long and thin one.
Yeah,
but turnips are more. Squashes have got like a mushy interior, haven't they? But turnips and Swedes are solid inside. They're almost like an apple. The consistency of their interior.
Yes.
Or a potato.
Like a radish.
Yeah, exactly. So, how do you usually celebrate Halloween? How do you normally celebrate Halloween, Madeleine?
Well, me and my fiance Bill and my friend Weaven will usually. I do kind of two celebrations.
Right.
The three of us will get together and eat a lot of food and watch various sort of weird or scary things. Yeah. And then I've got kind of another group of friends who we all know each other, but we met at college or school or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we'll actually go and do something because Bill's partially sighted, so he can't really go out at night. He can't see anything at all.
Yeah.
So with these friends, we'll go out and do like a haunted attraction or something like that.
That's cool.
So yeah.
Yeah. There's one up here called Farmer Ted's, I think, and it's like a haunted hayride thing, which we went to, and it was fantastic. The production values of these things are getting better and better, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of the charm. Yeah. But there's one in where is it? It was in Crescent Temple Barns, which you won't know, but it's just like a bunch of sheds, and it's basically they'd make the entire thing as disturbing as possible, and it's just like a local thing.
Right.
Pretty cool. So yeah.
It's a bit of a step up from when I was a kid and we used to go to my grandma's house, and she used to have like the spookiest attic in the world, and she used to put up spider webs in the corners, and we'd have like candies laid out on a table, and there'd be pumpkins or Swedes rather in the corners, and she'd always make like a Guy Fawkes witch, which would sit in the corner, usually like something stuffed with bin liners, with like a witch's hat on.
I love that kind of homemade local thing. Like I like local fates, which I'm sure most people find quite lame, but I just enjoy it. I don't know, they're very Wicker Man, but in a charming sort of way. I don't know.
I think what it is nowadays everything is so commercialized, and one city is like another. You know, I go to visit near you, and it'd be the same high street more or less as mine. You know, and I think stuff like that. It's still like a retention of the individualism of a place, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, exactly. And you really feel like a kind of like, because I remember when I was little and we used to do the maypole. We still do that because I actually grew up in a really small village.
Same, yeah,
and we actually did do the maypole thing, and I think they still do, and I think it's just nice. And there's also the thing, the Malden mud race, where basically there's this in Malden, there's kind of, it's the sea, but it's really far out, so there's loads and loads and loads of mud, like miles of mud.
Yeah.
It's just like a weird tradition that we've got where people just run into the mud.
I suppose it's a little bit like the cheese thing, isn't it? Where they chase the cheese down a hill.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah, a local thing where basically half the people end up having to be rescued.
Do you have anything like that in the States, Will? Any of the, like, local little quirky things that you do?
Well, sometime in the winter they have that polar bear club, and they run into like the freezing water in the beach.
Oh gosh!
You never heard about that?
No.
Yeah, it's like called the Polar Bear Club or something, and they just go in, I guess, in their bathing suits, and it's like freezing temperature out, like maybe in the 20s, 30s, and they just run into the water and they take a dip. And sometime around, I think, I don't know if it's in the New Year or February, but they just before it gets warm, I guess. But it's kind of crazy. I would never do something like that.
No, it's the same kind of thing with the Malden Mud Race. I mean, it used to be in February, but I think they have actually changed it to June now. I mean, I don't know why, but it did always used to be in February. Like, people used to have to be wrapped in these, not tinfoil. Well, I don't know. I think maybe tinfoil to try and make sure they didn't get hypothermia when they came back out.
Oh, you sometimes get them in marathons, the protective sheets into. I don't know exactly what you mean.
The silver things, yeah.
So how do you celebrate Halloween, Will? What are your traditions, just out of interest?
Mostly trick-or-treating. I mean, then, you carve the pumpkins. We got these, those gingerbread. So it's like a gingerbread house, like for Christmas, but it's they have the Halloween houses now.
Yeah.
So
you
put those together. You get those there in England?
We get in them more, actually. More people are kind of getting it. In thing.
It's kind of a new thing. It's not. I mean, I just noticed it maybe like, I'd say maybe 8 or 9 years back. I noticed it starting to come into like stores. And you eat. It's like a gingerbread house. So right afterwards, you eat it.
Okay.
Okay. I've always loved Halloween when I was little. I loved it far more than Christmas, and I feel like the UK is kind of catching up to how much I love Halloween now. It's much more of an American thing, but I feel like we're sort of catching up there now.
Yeah. I said this to Will on a previous episode. We're like the whole commercialization of Halloween's a very American thing, and we're sort of riding on the coattails of it a little bit, but it is so much fun,
Yeah, I'm happy to ride on those coattails because that we did Halloween like America.
Yeah. Are you planning to do anything Halloween related for your YouTube channel? That's all.
Well, me?
Yes.
I am actually. I've asked people to send me like short YouTube clips or websites or something like that I can film myself looking at.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so I don't know if you could put my email or something in the description of this or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll share it on Twitter as well.
Yeah, because I don't know exactly what date, like if I'm actually going to be able to do it on Halloween or we'll see, but it's going to be around that time. And I'm going to just watch what people send me.
Now these are all going to be surprise, right? You're not going to know what the video is?
Yeah, I'm not gonna have any clue. And the only thing that I ask is please don't send me any real genuine violence or animal cruelty because I'll be very cross.
Yeah.
But that other
There's some.
than
I mean,
that,
there's some crazy, scary videos out there. I mean, I don't think they fall into the the animal violence category or anything, but there's some like
yeah,
crazy, weird videos.
I'm sure there are. Yeah, no, if it's just weird or if it's unsettling, then send it my
Now,
Oh
way.
gosh.
are you going to show the video that you're watching, or just your reaction to it?
No, I'll show the whole. I'll show both my reaction and the video at the same time, so you can experience it with me.
That's fantastic. Can I just say, I really genuinely like Madeleine's YouTube channel. There's, how would I describe it? It's British quirky. You're the most English person I know, Madeleine. It's hilarious. You are.
To me, yeah. I think it's just I don't know. I've just
It's,
I was talking about this the other day, and I don't mean to come off like oh I'm so wacky or anything like that but I mean this genuinely. Every now and then I'll be doing something and I'll catch myself and I think oh my god am I eccentric? Is this something eccentric people do?
and don't take this the wrong way. I think you are eccentric, but not in a bad way.
Yeah.
I don't watch your YouTube channel and go, my God, she's weird, or my God, she's quirky. I just think it's really good, and sometimes it's almost like you have this sort of topical sense of humor, which just I mean, maybe only English people might appreciate. Like I remember you saying about that you apologise sometimes when it's someone else's fault. And it's like a very British sense of humour, you know, and it's like some people don't get that, you know.
Apologizing is like a hobby, you know.
Yeah,
It's my job.
Absolutely.
My job is to apologize when other people's stuff goes wrong. That's hospitality in America.
Yeah.
Oh,
But in America, sorry, go.
Sorry.
Sorry, go, Madeleine. Go.
Call centers are I don't know how big they are in America, but call centers are most people work in one at some point here. And I seemed to spend my entire job in the call center apologizing for things.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, but it's like over in America, Will. If someone bumped into you, you know, you're like walking down the street or whatever, and someone just sort of hit you, you go, "What the fuck you doing?" You know. Whereas in England, you know, whoever's fault it, I'm so sorry. You know, even though it's not your fault.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, you absolutely regret apologising. She said, "Hang on a minute, it wasn't my fault after all."
I wasn't the one that bumped into you. You bumped into me, but still, you know, I'm very sorry.
It's a very English thing, you know, just being apologetic and just hating ourselves, I think.
I think it depends in America. It's like sometimes you'll feel sorry, but then sometimes you see that guy that's like walking down and you see they're squaring up. They're getting ready to knock into a whole bunch of people, especially in Times Square. It's
Do you sound like you're from New York? Are you from New York?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I bet it's quite different there. Am I right?
It's violent, but then you still find moments when there are nice situations happening.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I've always wanted to go to New York. It's like my dream one day.
Yeah, I'd like to. Well, I did until I met Will. No, I'm joking.
Put you off. I'd love to. I really want to go to that shop that was in. It's probably rubbish and not like the program at all. But I wanted to go to the Oddity shop, and I don't know if you ever saw that.
There's a lot of those, especially in the Village.
Yeah, I just want to look at weird stuff, and I think New York is full of weird stuff.
Oh yes.
I always appreciate, you know. Just cool.
So, how did you start doing your YouTube channel, Madeleine? How did it come about?
Yeah, that. Well, do you know, I kind of like a lot of people do YouTube to talk about themselves, and I kind of am a bit nervous of doing that. So I thought, well, what else do I like talking about? And it's, you know, stuff I've read and things I enjoy. So I thought, well, I'll just you know, occasionally read one of my own stories, and I can talk about things that I've read, and that's kind of progressing to the bits in between reading, and so yeah, it's kind of a mishmash of what is interesting to me at the time, which generally is book related, but is at least weird related. So
yeah.
like there's one where I read a book with loads of Victorian newspaper clippings, and I thought some of these are so great that I've got to read them out, and I just put some like Victorian early footage in the background, and so whatever takes my fancy. And I've got a second channel which I'm kind of switching up at the minute. It used to just be me reading weird stories, but now I've decided that I'm going to use the good mic and just have like, because I listen at night, I listen to scary stories but with gentle rain in the background.
That's nice.
Yeah, and it actually is quite soothing, even though the story is really disturbing.
Yeah.
I find it very soothing. So I've got one that I've read coming out on Tuesday, which is a story from The King in Yellow, and it's got gentle rain in the background. So that's going to be on the Weirdest Fiction, the second channel. So yeah.
How are those doing? Like how do you feel the YouTube channels are doing in terms of subscribers and all that happy YouTube stuff?
I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm kind of more. I don't want to sound like I'm not interested in other people. That's not true at all. But I'm kind of finding that as long as I'm doing what I'm interested in, it grows really steadily, and you sort of pick up people, you know, as you go. And I think I've only got like almost 800 on the first one, which isn't very many, but it's a lot more than I ever thought I would get, you know, on the first one.
And it's therapeutic too, to just like get your thoughts out and release.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, for example, like I read a political book and I had so many thoughts. I was like, who am I going to say what I think about this to? I don't want to bore all my friends, so I just sort of filmed myself rambling about this political book that I'd read, and so yeah, it's good for that kind of thing, you know. Do
you get many much controversy with your YouTube? Do you get some weirdos on there making comments and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, blimey.
Or is that a no in the conversation?
Oh,
I know God. I've seen a few on Twitter. I've seen you posting a couple times. That.
Oh, dear. Mention Lovecraft to me, and the hair on the back of my neck stands on end. I was kind of interested in, because I'm more interested in people who don't fit into society very well, and thinking about why that might be. And Lovecraft was an odd person. He was a lonely, strange man, and I do really like his stories. I would say I'm a fan. So I thought, well, I want to talk about his oddities, and that does include some pretty heavy racism. So I was kind of intrigued by that, but I think a lot of people kind of didn't actually watch what I was saying. They sort of saw a person bring up his racism and decided that I was saying, don't ever read Lovecraft, it's pure filth, which is not something I would ever say anyway, and I still get abuse on it to this day.
Oh gosh. You know, it's a difficult thing, and you know, you can sort of view it or have an opinion on it in, you know, from many different angles. But it's just like, for example, yesterday I was watching like one of the Carry On films. You know, anyone who's English or British listening to this will know the Carry On films. They really do really tame and stuff. But even when I'm watching it, there's obvious sort of nods to homosexuality, and there's mild racism. There's people blacking up and stuff in some of them.
Yeah.
But back in the day when I was growing up, it was seen as sort of, well, I won't say wholesome entertainment, but it was seen as a bit of a laugh, a bit of like seaside humour, weren't it?
Yeah, it's very postcard humour, seaside humour, as we would say here, which you might not understand in America. I don't know, but it's very. I mean, I live in Southend, and people still see Southend that way. Quite different now, but that was a very sort of seaside kind of, seen in the same manner as a Carry-On film.
Yeah, but it's like, because I like the Carry-On films, does that make me homophobic and racist? Just because I don't sort of condemn it. Although I do appreciate that some elements of it I don't know, dated, shall we say? It don't mean that I disrespect the people that were in it any much so, because it was different back then. It isn't acceptable, but it was different back then.
I mean, Kenneth Williams. He was a very famous gay man. He was, I would say, kind of fairly open. I don't know too much about.
Yeah, I think so. It's like Charles Autry as well. He was
a great raconteur, but I think the main thing I was trying to get across with the Lovecraft thing is, maybe I'd probably put it a lot better if I did it now, is that you can talk about these things, you can be a fan of stuff like this, but you have to be able to talk about it, and you have to kind of be able to dissect these things, otherwise we're not going to grow as a society. If you just sort of brush it under the carpet and go, no, he was a man of his time, it was fine, don't worry about it, just don't think about it, we're not going to progress. So no,
I agree. You're just basically doing what Hitler did by burning the books, aren't you? It's like destroying knowledge, deny it, ignore it, it'll go away, sort of thing. And that's just as bad as being saying it was acceptable, I suppose.
Exactly. I mean, he was like, let's not beat around the bush, he was a pretty raging racist.
Wow.
So we've got to be able to talk about that and not be afraid to accept these things.
Yeah, it's. I have got a couple of Lovecraft collections, but I must admit I've not really delved too deeply into his collection. Though I have read some of his stuff. Is it seriously blatant racism? Is it?
Yes. Oh my God. There's a particular poem that he wrote. I'm not even going to say what it's called.
Right.
Because it's called That. And it says that and words like it many, many times.
Right.
Wow. I didn't even know this. Like, I'm in Gary's boat. I to be honest with you, I haven't really read much. Just the really popular ones. I did a reading on with Dead Man on one of his shows with the cat, I believe it was. And I didn't see anything. I guess it was more mainstream.
Yeah. Oh, he's got. He's got great stories. And I'm sure that his odd kind of frame of mind and his outsider perspective gave him a lot of the inspiration for the stuff that he came out with. But I remember the first time I came across him, the story of his that I read, which was actually Reanimator. I don't know if you've read that one. But
I watched the movie.
Yeah, it's not like that really.
Oh.
It's kind of different, but the description of the black guy in it put me off reading anything by him for a long time. But then I kind of got intrigued in him again, and I think you can look at things. I think you can appreciate things in a literary manner, but also criticize them at the same time. One doesn't negate the other. By pointing out the faults of the man, you're not also saying that he was a bad writer, because it wasn't.
Well, that's true, because there's some writers today that are like very vocal about politics and everything, and
Yeah.
and a lot of the stuff like I don't like to talk about it. I feel that it's kind of useless. It just makes enemies. But like
Yeah.
they get very amped and very you know, sometimes you're like, oh, you know, I don't want, you don't want to listen to anything they say, but I will still listen to, like, read their books because, you know,
Mm.
they've always been uh, either a favorite or I just enjoyed reading their material. So I know what you mean by that. It's like being stuck in a rock and a hard place. You're like, oh man, you know, why are they saying this? But
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's probably easier with authors that are long dead. If it's like, say, I mean, I've had this conversation with someone before. With Lovecraft, you can kind of say, well, yeah, the man, oh my God, he was like this, but he's been dead for quite a long time. So, and if it really does affect you in the place that you can't read him, that's totally understandable as well. But if
Hmm.
I think I would probably feel different if a writer that I was a big fan of now said something that he
yeah,
said.
the things that they're saying now, they're not to the point of what he, like Lovecraft was saying. Like they don't come out and say the N word, and they don't come out and say all these crazy things, but
Mm,
they do, like, they, some of their opinions get a little heated, and it may
mm,
make you think differently about them if you're, you know, have an opposing opinion. But
yeah,
other than that, it's nothing like extreme where you're like, oh man, I hate this guy now. I mean, I'm sure there might be some people out there that would hate them for things they, you know, certain things they say, and I always say that it's like destroying your possible fans. You know, like you say this, and then you may even think differently next week. You know, and then just because you said what you said last week, a whole section of
yeah,
possible fans are lost. You know.
yeah, exactly. And I kind of oh no, I forgot what I was going to say. It was along those lines. I'm sure it was important. No,
That usually happens to me.
yeah, no, I
At least one time per show, I lose what I'm gonna say.
yeah, I feel like it was really good as well, and I'm gutted, but no, I can't remember. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So sort of moving on to sort of your own kind of writing. Is there anything in your stories that might offend people in the future?
Mm.
Ooh, I hope not, but you never know. I mean, I think that society's an ever changing and evolving thing, and if there are
Yeah.
things that offend people in the future, then I apologise now. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry, and I'm sure I'll change my mind when I realise that it was bad.
So your latest book out is Fortune Box Stories. I'm kind of interested to know how it. Did you write this? Each sort of chapter is a different story set within the same universe. Is that fair?
Yes, yes, yeah.
So well, let's start off. How would you describe it to someone who's not read it?
I'd say it's a collection of short stories that are linked by a theme of a tower, a strange company called Tower Limited Surprise Packages, and each different story is a peculiar magic or creepy or disturbing gift from this tower. And each story, a different character is affected by what they receive, and it can either be the best thing that they've received or the worst.
So I read this. You were kind enough to sort of send me a signed copy of it, and I genuinely really enjoyed it. It's one of the first books for ages that I sort of. It's not particularly long, but I sort of read it from start to finish within a couple of days, which is pretty quick for me. So I did really enjoy it. But I was kind of interested. Is the whole sort of tower thing? Is it a social commentary in the background, do you think? Is it as a reflection of society, you know, sort of how some people... I was just interested to know if you were making a sort of a more sort of metaphorical sort of
I think I can't. I think it's partly that, and also partly. Have you heard of what they call mystery packages or something? Where you can receive packages which have got some sort of like mystery story attached to it.
Yes.
So I noticed that, and also I was reading The Red Tower by Thomas Ligotti, and there's a section in it, just one section where the tower does all these weird things, but one of them is send gifts to everyone in a nearby village, and inside the package is something really creepy and weird. I kind of thought from there, like, what if different people from different social backgrounds and people with different political perspectives received gifts, and how would they respond?
Madeleine, I don't know if you ever heard of this on YouTube. There's this growing trend now called the mystery box, and a lot of them like to get it from the dark web. Is it sort of like that, where you like? And usually they put together, like the ones that I've seen, some of them are fake, some of them might be real, but what I've seen is a lot of these mystery boxes, sometimes they pay anywhere from 100 to like 1,000 to even more. And they have like sometimes knives with blood on them. They'll have, they have some creepy things. Sometimes it's just weird looking dolls with dolls sewn into the doll, and then another doll sewn into that doll. And then like maybe a thumbnail that has some creepy video on it or something. Is it similar to that?
I mean, I guess in a way they tend to be more sort of fantastical in the story. But if I'd known about that, then I'll definitely say that was an inspiration. But that's new to me. I'm fascinated. I'm definitely looking up videos of that now. I had no idea that even existed.
Yeah, it's just like type in.
We spoke about it on.
Yeah, a few shows back. Just type in dark mystery box dark web, and you'll get all the videos.
Yeah, I'll definitely, because the thing about the dark web is, I'd probably be a bit worried about like if the blood was real.
Yeah. Well, some of them have to like give it into the police. And some of them actually, and this is where it gets like, I think it gets phony. Some of them have the people from the dark web trace them and find them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then they're like kind of like, they're harassing them.
Theories out of it. Like they try and make like what are they called, an ARG or something, an alternate reality.
I mean, it's entertaining, but some of them you can tell it's fake, and then some of them you can say this might be real because of the things that they find in the box, and it looks like it could be plausible,
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by that. I'm gonna
look it up.
There's a couple of horror channels that I really like that cover that sort of thing. I've not heard of the mystery box myself, but if you go on to I don't know if you've heard of Rainbot, REIGN bot.
No.
She sort of covers some pretty weird stuff, or Scare Theatre. They're and they have lots of weird. They investigate weird things like that. So have a look.
Oops.
Gosh.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she does the Momo.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. Yeah, and the reason I like those two so much is because they're quite skeptical. They don't just go, "Oh my God, this ghost contacted me." It's they actually look into what is really going on.
I was telling Will, slightly off topic, but I was watching a program. I'd never seen it before. It was on one of the American channels that I can sort of stream, and it was called Mountain Monsters, and it was a bit like a Most Haunted or a Ghost Hunters type thing, where you had basically like 4 rednecks with the old, the dungarees and the beards and the hats, and they're out in the woods investigating for Sasquatch, and you know, animals, cryptids like that.
Yeah.
And it's the worst program I think I have ever seen in terms of, you know, credibility. I mean, we all know that some of these things are, you know, I don't know, they exaggerate the effects of what's happening, and I think, you know, sometimes they're a little bit dishonest, but this was just ridiculous. And what made me really laugh was they were supposed to be meeting a mountain man right in the middle of nowhere, you know, somewhere in Virginia, you know. So it's in the middle of these woods, and this mountain man had contacted them apparently. So they're looking for him around the woods, you know, rather than just going to his house or whatever. They're searching for him in the woods, and they finally find him, and he's all sort of holding his gun up to them and saying, "What are you doing here?" You know, like he hasn't invited them.
Yeah.
And they're all talking about how, you know, oh, this really is a guy who, you know, he's never seen like technology and yada yada yada. And anyway, long story short, what absolutely just killed it for me was what the jump in the shark moment was when they went to him, spoke to him, and he handed them a memory stick with a video they'd recorded of this thing on it. And it's like, what?
Why would he have? Yeah.
You know, you just blatantly said this guy shuns technology, and you know, about 20 minutes earlier in the program. Yeah. And he's in the middle of nowhere. He lives in a shed somewhere, you know, and he pulls out this SanDisk, you know, 128 gigabyte memory stick, and gives it to them. And then these rednecks go to this beat up old truck, open the back and watch the video on a laptop. You know. Yeah. Just kill the credibility of it.
Yeah. It's like there's quite a few things like that where the audience is quite young kids, and I think didn't Team 10 or something do something where they were kidnapped by clowns, and
really?
some other people were I can't remember the name of the YouTuber, but he was supposed to be like murdered by somebody, and then he turned up the next week going, "Hi, I'm not dead." And it really like scares the audience because they're all about 8, you know.
Yeah.
It's a bit iffy. I don't know.
But going back to sort of your collection, it's to those who haven't read it, it's more sort of, rather than, you know, you're just getting weird things in the post, it's the stories revolve around very weird, bizarre happenings. Is it bizarro, this book? I mean, I don't use the term that often or know how to attribute it, but would you say this story is bizarro?
Well, I kind of the term bizarro, I think, is quite loose anyway.
Right.
I think it's generally the way I look at the term bizarro is that it's basically modern weird fiction. You know, if something is difficult to place, an easy way of saying it's new and it's weird, you know, because I've seen stuff where, I mean, like Autumn Christian does quite sort of gothic stuff, and Farrow Rose Smith, she does quite gothic stuff, and then you've got people like Jeff Burke or I don't know, Christoph Paul, whose stuff is very different, but it's still weird, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just, I guess, just an easy way of saying it's weird.
Yeah. So the opening story, and it's brilliant. It's a woman who grows her own boyfriend, is it? Yeah. And he's sort of bleeding like goo everywhere and stuff. And it's fantastic. It's just, it reminded me a little bit of Body Snatchers in a way, but at the same time, it was very funny.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like this person is dying, but I wanted to make it funny, as funny as possible. You know? Yeah. Kind of like, it kind of came out as perhaps one of the most British things that I've done, I think.
Yeah.
Because both people, like when I went to Bizarricon in 2017, and they showed a short film from lots of different short films from different countries, and what made me laugh was that the British one had a woman in it who was basically ended it with wanting to hide this body that killed, and but she was having like this massive like breakdown in the sense of, you are going to help me hide this body and then we are going to get married like we were supposed to. And I have a nicer car than next door like we always planned. Like, I don't realise that must be a thing. That,
Yeah. Are you sure this was a film, Madeleine? It wasn't just you.
I was sat there on my own and everyone was watching something different. So it must be, I don't know, like it must be an underlying thing. Something, I don't know. And also he just goes along with what she wants, even though he is like dying and oozing all this goo, just because he doesn't want to offend her and she's a bit scary to him. So he just goes, okay, let's carry on with this date. So they're both like going on with this date together that's awful, but neither of them want to stop it because it would be impolite,
That story wasn't based on personal experience, was it? That's all you and Bill.
No, weirdly enough, ours were the easiest dates ever,
Yeah.
No stress involved. We went to Ripley's Believe It or Not, and
awesome.
It was great. So yeah, but I did go on some really bad ones before.
I won't ask.
Madeleine, do you feel? I always have to ask everyone this when they come on. Do you feel that you are almost at the stage where you're going to be writing for your main paycheck, or do you feel you're almost at that stage, or do you have maybe an idea of how long ahead that might be?
Well, I work part-time, and the way I look at it is that I'm quite happy to sort of keep going and doing that for as long as it takes, and if I end up not having to do more at some point, that would be good. Or realistically, I think I describe myself as a realistic optimist. If if this doesn't sort of end up being my only paycheck, then I'm okay with that. I'm all right. Just keep doing what I'm doing. And if it does, then so be it. So we'll see.
Yeah. Do you have any other projects that you're about ready to finish, or you're working on, or anything coming out soon?
Yeah, well, I've just finished. Well, I finished the first draft of a children's kind of weird book, and I'm editing that at the moment. And then Lisa Cantoral is going to edit that. And then I'd like to send that one out to agents. So, and then I've got an idea for another thing that I want to send to Clash Books, which is Lisa and Christoph's thing. But they might not like it, so
Well, you said something interesting there. You said you're going to send it out to agents. What do you feel is better? Do you feel self-publishing is better, or do you feel going the traditional route is a better choice?
I think self-publishing really does work for some people, and it might work for me in the future. But I think the thing that stops me from doing that so much now is, well, I mean, I've done small press, but the reason I do want to send stuff to agents and do it that way is I am actually really awful at promoting myself. And if you're going to self-publish, you've got to be really good at that. You've got to be constantly on it, and that's just not a thing that I'm personally, that great at.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And it takes like a whole other job too. It's like it takes up a lot of time. Exactly.
I mean, like, both things would be, you've got your full-time job, and then that would be a full-time job. And it's just like, I even feel guilty saying on Twitter, I wrote something would you like to read it? So, you know, like I'm just not great at the self-promotion thing. So
Yeah, that's another thing too. Like sometimes you're in that mind frame where you want to self promote, but then you like then there's those moments where it's just like, oh man, how are they gonna see this? You know, I've seen people who just do it like day in and day out, and then but they have it like automatic. So they're not. I guess that it takes that sort of anxiety out of it, because I have anxiety about a lot of things, and I guess it takes that anxiety out because it's like some robot just posting your stuff automatically, so you can't really worry about it until you see. Yeah.
People like Gabino Iglesias. I don't know if you follow him on Twitter or.
Yeah.
His name. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He just has no fear. He just like, I'm a writer and listen to me. Oh my God, but he doesn't come off like. There are some people who, like, that's all they do, and I really do get fed up at that. Like if someone follows me on Twitter and I look at their timeline, and literally all it is retweets and links to their book, I don't bother following, because that to me isn't a person that's being a person. That's kind of a robot. Like, that sounds mean, but that's just
no, it's true, because you want to know that person's at least like real, or at least they're helping out other people too.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm trying, like, when I retweet stuff, sometimes I just retweet stuff just to get, they say, like, you know, the antenna out there to spread the word. But I try to, like, at least read a little bit of the person's stuff just to get an idea of how they are. Because sometimes if you just, like, blindly retweet stuff and then you don't know what that's about, you know.
Even if it's just, like, a little thing saying what about it might be interesting, or what about the person. Like, if I know I like that person's stuff, I'll just try and say something rather than just retweet.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Sometimes sort of you'll get befriended on Twitter. I don't know, it's probably happened to you guys, you know, and it's like, oh, I wonder who this person is, and you just click and it is, like you say, retweet after retweet, or they DM you then, you know, if you follow them back and say, oh, buy my book, here's a link to my book. It's like, go away.
Or they have 10,000 people and they're following like a few, and then you get like there's a program that you can check to see, like, if somebody, like, you know, unfollowed you and stuff. It's called Crowdfire, and it's like like a week later they unfriend you, and then you're like, oh, I see what you were trying to do.
Yeah, I get that. Like, that's the thing that annoys people. Like, if this guy has followed me like 3 times, I don't remember the name, I wouldn't say it anyway. But this guy's followed me 3 times, and then each time after I followed him back, he's just unfollowed me. It's like, God, that's so rude.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's you know, it just gets me sick sometimes, because it's, you know, it's like, what is your what are they going to achieve? You know, it's not like they have so many followers, but they're not genuine followers.
Yeah, they're not going to read anything that you've done. Really.
Yeah, you know, I mean, they might be an antenna, but the only thing, you know, it's lately Twitter has been kind of getting on my nerves.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, like, it's difficult sometimes, and I think I'm kind of in 2 minds about it, like, because on the one hand, I feel like you know, it's my duty as a human being to sort of keep up with things that are happening culturally and learning how to be a better person, and, you know, listening to other people, and also the massive anxiety that it gives me, you know. It's kind of like it's very much a constant battle. I think sometimes a break is a good thing. Definitely.
Well, I mean, plus we're we're supposed to be writers. We're supposed to be writing things, you know. It's like all these people on Twitter, they post and post and post. I'm like, when do you have your time to write? Especially if you have a day job. There's like no time for any of this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Promotion takes up just as much time as everything else. I think if you're noticing it is a detriment to time that you're spending on your actual work, then perhaps you need to step back a bit. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do it a little bit less, perhaps.
Gary, what do you think about Twitter?
I think I've found it to be a really good tool.
I do like Twitter.
Yeah, I do. I think I prefer it to Facebook, actually, honestly.
Oh my God, Facebook. I can't bear it. I can't.
Yeah. Facebook's just full of chavs, and at least Twitter's, you get a chance to sort of promote your work and stuff, but it's like any sort of medium that involves like a mass sort of social get together. You get your idiots and you get your genuine people. I mean, I've met so many people through Twitter, Will included, and obviously you as well, Madeleine, and stuff, and which is a positive. And then obviously you meet some not so great people, and you get people who just like to, like we say, just bother you and just try and sell you their stuff, but at the end of the day, if I wanted to read a book or I wanted to read someone's short story, I'm more than likely to go out myself and find that person or find that short story than to pay attention to some sort of crap sort of DM that's sent to me saying, read this,
Absolutely. Because you can find people as entertaining people, and it makes you interested in what they do. Like, I always try and bring up this person in every interview because I don't think that she gets the attention that she should really, but I follow this person called Julia Platz-Holter, Platz with a Z, or however you prefer, and I just thought her tweets were funny, and so I read her book, Who Cares, Nothing Matters, and thought it was really good. Like, bits of it are kind of gross, but it was funny, and had me sort of laughing from page one. And I read it because I thought she was funny on Twitter, so it's great for that. I found Facebook very exhausting, whereas Twitter can be great,
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to do also, like with this YouTube thing, and then I try to do the blog posts. I try to, even if you're not reading the blog posts, I try to make these weird kind of like pictures and stuff, and it's so you can get something out of it. But like you said, she makes the funny tweets, but they're genuine. They're from her. She's not just like copying something and regurgitating it. And then you're like, what? That's interesting. Let me see who this person is. And then one day you just say, it just causes. I would say it's a better way of getting attention.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just be you, be a person, and you'll find your group.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if you're going to DM me, then I'm more likely to not read your shit,
Yeah.
just put yourself out there. And one guy was part of like the Deadman's Tome sort of crew, I suppose. Yeah. And he'd had a story published by Jesse Deadman, and he messaged me. He's messaged me a few times saying he always speaks quite sort of stilted and polite. He's like, "Hello, please check out my new poem. It's absolutely fantabulous." And he'll put a link to it, and I tend to ignore it. Yeah. Because it's usually in Facebook Messenger he sends his messages. But the last one he sent me, he said, "Oh, check out my poem and yada yada yada. It's critically acclaimed, and please give feedback if you have time." And I ignored it, and then literally the next day, he sent me a message saying, "Have you read it yet?" And I was like, "Fuck off."
Like, on the one hand, I want to be a good, I want to be a good friend to other creative types and do what I can, and read people's stuff and things like that. But generally, if people message me and ask me, "Can you read my thing?" I don't know why, I just find it really hard to get around to. Like, I think I might have to stop saying yes to that because
I think as the people grows and as your community expands, it's really difficult to support everyone that because you'll be like me, no doubt. You'll have your favorite writers, you'll have books that you see in the shops and online, you know, professional books published by proper publishers, and you know, you'll think, oh wow, that looks really, really good, I really fancy reading that, and that'll make its way onto your list. And at the same time, you have friends as well, and you feel obliged to buy their books too, but it's only so far you can go, you know, otherwise you're just going to be like skint all the time, aren't you? You're not going to have any money.
The financial thing, and also my to read list is just so ridiculously massive right now.
Yeah.
You know, I do.
Yeah. But I thought your book, when I received your book, I read it like within a day of getting it, and I think what it was I really liked the front cover, which shows how shallow I am. I was like, oh, and it was very short, so
yeah,
good, you know.
Yeah, it's people say that it was the front cover. It was the front cover that got me interested, and I'm perfectly happy to admit that if I see an amazing front cover, like perhaps even more than half the time, that's the reason that I'll get a book. Because it's a great front cover, and it makes me read it. So yeah, it's important.
I was looking in. We were shopping in Tesco yesterday, and I was looking at all the books. They had like quite an extensive paperback section there, and you know, there's one. It's called The Chalk Man. I can't remember the name of the author that wrote it, but Stephen King had done a bit of a blurb for it, saying, you know, if you like my stuff, you'll like this or something.
Wow.
Yeah. And the front cover of that drew me to it straight away. You know, it's like a stick figure drawn in chalk, you know, like a hangman's noose on it and stuff.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds interesting.
Well, exactly. You're never supposed to judge a book by its cover, but here we are, you know.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Sometimes when you get those blurbs too, like I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming Stephen King probably read it or has an idea about it. But then you'll get some of these authors, either they're paid or they just they ask him, hey, can you just write a blurb for my book? And then sometimes you get lucky, and you can get that certain author to write a blurb, and then it doesn't mean that they totally
I genuinely didn't know that happened. I don't know why. It makes perfect sense that would happen, but I had no idea.
No, but more likely to read The Chalk Man than read Mr. Smith's bag of shit that he's just sent me at the end. Yeah, I mean,
it's a tricky world.
It's very specific, Gary. Maybe you should write that one.
Oh gosh.
Willy Wonka.
Yes,
Wonka.
That's a really good story. Willy Wonka the Chocolate. I read recently a short story by Roald Dahl, which made it into, I think it was New Yorker.
Right.
And it was an award-winning short horror story that he wrote.
Is it one of the ones that became Tales of the Unexpected?
It might have been.
Because I love Tales of the Unexpected.
It was such a good story, and I loved Roald Dahl, and he was my childhood hero, growing up. But I never knew until sort of my adult life that he'd actually written mysteries and stuff, and I think he was heavily involved with Ian Fleming as well. He knew, the guy who wrote James Bond and all that. Yeah. But he wrote some pretty successful horror stories as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he's got. I've got this book. I think it's like the complete collection of his adult short stories, and the first two series of Tales of the Unexpected is just all his short stories dramatized.
Right.
And if you haven't seen them, or if you didn't know about it, you've got to watch it. Really, I mean, after that, it started to become other people's stories, and it really sort of went quite naff. But the first two series, at least, are really good. And The Landlord is one of my favourites.
The Landlord. This one was about a landlady. This one I read.
Yeah, sorry, The Landlord.
That was the one. Yeah, and I won't spoil it for anyone who's not read it, but you can find it free. I googled it and found it, and it was on some sort of literary source. online, but it's a cracking short story. And
Yeah.
that again, when you're reading it, it's very 1960s or 1970s or whatever it was written. You know, the language of it. You know, it's very sort of very formal. I walked down with my brolly and my, you know, my bowler hat, and I, you know,
Smelled weird.
But wait, he wrote BFG, right?
Yeah.
Now, what is that?
Exactly.
Does that stand for Big Fucking Giant?
Well, I tell you what, my dad
Big friendly guy.
is the big fat git. That's what I told my teacher I was reading.
Oh no!
When I was about 8 years old, she said, "What are you reading here?" And I said, "The Big Fat Git." I think she was slightly taken aback.
Oh my god!
I think,
It's big friendly giant, isn't it?
yeah, it's the big
Wow.
Yeah. Well, could you imagine sort of growing up with Roald Dahl as I did, you know, reading like The Witches, James and the Giant Peach, and then, you know, you got all these other sort of just wonderful stories he's written, and then opening one of these sort of adult short story books, and it's absolute filth. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I mean, The Witches was a huge inspiration because I remember staying up all night to read that book, and the chapter where, or the different chapters, I can't remember, where she's telling her grandson what all these different witches did to all these different children. I just remember, oh my god, and being really scared, and like it being really late at night, and knowing that I was supposed to be going to sleep because I had school or something, but
yeah,
you know.
Gosh, it is. I sat down and read it to my daughter in bed. She's like 8 years old now. But we had to stop about a quarter of the way through it because it was, I think it was the part where the witch turns up and he's making a tree house, and she says, come down, and he knows it's a witch. And she has a snake in her hand, and he climbs a tree and he goes right to the top, and he's sort of hiding up there. But she's like, Daddy, I don't want you to read this one anymore. Can we do something else? So we did. I think we did James and the Giant Peach instead.
Yeah, probably.
What about Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I wasn't really going to say anything. It's just waffle, really.
No, I was going to say, what about Harry Potter? Anybody's gonna I want to read my daughter Harry Potter soon.
Yeah.
I thought those.
I actually like Harry Potter. I'm sure that's probably, you know, not cool to say or whatever, but I love.
No, I'm the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people tell me that. I'm like, I don't know. Is it maybe an English thing or?
Oh.
Well, I tell you what. Like, I actually was talking about this last night during a game of Cards Against Humanity. But we were talking about Harry Potter, and my friend was saying, like, I don't get it. Like, I don't really get why it's such a thing. You know, and like for me it's kind of personal. Like I was a lot older. I was mid-20s actually before I read it, which is more embarrassing, but I tried to do acting at one point before I decided to start writing properly, and I was in London and I was living with these people that I didn't really like very much, and I was in this city where I didn't know anyone. And I was going to auditions, which were just a constant, like, I wasn't getting anywhere. And the girl that had been in the room before me had left all of her books of Harry Potter. And I basically spent all the time, in that room, sort of not knowing what to do. I could either watch TV, which it just gets boring after a while, or I decided to read these books. And I think they kept me sane, you know. I just enjoyed them. And
the reading is very easy. I mean, it's like watching a movie almost.
Yeah.
But I think it's sort of like, what's that other one with the vampires that sparkle? It's easy to just say it's
Twilight.
Yeah, like it's a lot of people, they don't like it, but I mean, I started reading. I didn't read the story, but I started reading the beginning of it. I didn't think it was terrible. I mean.
No. I mean, you know, if people like it, they like it. You know, I would never crap on somebody's thing that they enjoy. I don't like that was always one thing that annoyed me about social media, is saying online,
Yeah.
oh, I've just read this or seen this, oh, I thought it was really good, and then you always get one person going, I saw that, it was crap.
It's usually me, isn't it?
Stuff, you know, if you don't like it, just there's no point saying.
Yeah.
I kind of recall some of my other half, Lisa, some of her cousins were reading 50 Shades of Grey when that came out. And these are like, you know, people who don't generally read, you know, at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they quite a little bit, you know, big hooped earrings and, you know, lots of children. And it became a bit of a trend to read, for some reason, to read 50 Shades of Grey. And every other post on Facebook was like, you know, oh yeah, did you just read 50 Shades Freed? It was brilliant, and you know, oh, it was amazing, and you know, all misspelled, you know, and and
that was Twilight fan fiction, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Started off with Twilight fan fiction.
Wow.
And she changed the Edward character, like she just made some changes.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Very interesting. Yeah, that it's like a copy of a copy almost.
Yeah, but isn't it funny how something like that would attract the attention of someone who, I suppose it's a good thing in a way, someone who can barely read would want to read something like that, and it became a bit of a social media phenomenon. You know, all their chavvy friends were reading it, and you know, it was a big Facebook thing, and they're all competing to see who could read the most books. I don't know how many they are in the series. You know, I think there's 3 in there. I wouldn't know, honestly. But
I'm always pleased when things like that happen, though. I mean, you know, it's not what it is. But I remember as well that short story Cat Person really sort of did the round, and I thought that was a great story. And sometimes things just seem to touch a nerve, and there's no knowing what it will be and why, you know. Like a series of unfortunate events. If you were to say to somebody, oh, there's this series of kids books in which just these continually awful things happen, you wouldn't think that it would be popular, and yet you know.
Did somebody say Cat Person?
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
I happen to be a cat man.
Madeleine's like, what the fuck?
Oh, come on, you have to remember Catman from the Dead Man days.
He's so famous.
What's happened?
Oh gosh, but to go back to the Harry Potter thing, you can get the illustrated editions of the book now. Well, I think at least the first 3 books. I saw them in the supermarket yesterday. They're like, you know, you can get the Philosopher's Stone, and I don't know what the other ones are, but they're fully illustrated, and they're actually quite pretty, you know. But if you're willing to pay like £20 or whatever it is, $25 for a book, and you want, like you were saying, you wanted to read it to your daughter and stuff, maybe something like that is worthwhile. But it's not for me, Harry Potter. It just I didn't really like the films, and
I mean, I kind of liked a couple of the films. I do really like. I think Daniel Radcliffe has chosen some really good things since, but the film,
like Horns from Joe Hill.
Pardon?
Yeah,
he did the movie Horns.
Oh, I haven't seen that one, but I tell you what.
Me either.
Sorry, A Young Doctor's Notebook. Oh God, I love that so much. Have you seen that? It's an adaptation of a Doctor's Notebook by Mikhail Bulgakov, who's a Russian absurdist.
Right.
It's him and John Hamm. John Hamm is the older version of him who talks to Daniel Radcliffe, who's the younger version of him, and it's just like he's a Russian doctor in the sort of 1912 kind of era. The revolution was happening, or just about to happen, and he's so bored that he becomes a morphine addict. But it's based on Bulgakov's personal like experiences, and the book's really good as well. So yeah, he wrote Master and Margarita. I don't know if you've read that. But...
No.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. We get different guests on the show, and you know, quite often, like just as has been the case for you, you know, they'll come up and say, "Oh, have you tried such and such a thing?" Or, you know, "Have you tried this book?" I mean, Leo's very good for it. Leo X Robertson, you know, he'll come out and say, "Oh, there's, you know, have you heard of this?" And it's something that I'd never even consider reading normally, you know. And then you think, well, actually, I'll add, like, literally now I'm adding it to my list, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I love Russian absurdism. It's a huge inspiration, like Bulgakov and Daniel Harms and like that. So yes,
it's cool. You could literally just be making names up now, and I wouldn't know the difference. You know, like Johnny Twinglebin and Jimmy Shoes.
If you look up Daniel Harms, it's like he was thrown into prison just for being what's the word, subversive.
Right.
He wrote short stories, and just because they were pretty weird, you know, he was like, "Oh, what's going on here? We better lock him away." You know, Russia's got such a strange history. But yeah, yeah, you should look up his stuff. It's great, but it's really short, but it's so out there that it's like probably one of my favourites.
Yeah. I really want to give Sharp Little Things a try. They had that at the shop. So there's a TV series of it. I don't know if you've seen it or heard of it.
That does ring a bell.
I didn't even realise it was based on a book. And my other half sort of watched it. It was one of them where she was more interested in it than I was, but occasionally I'd find myself watching scenes in it and find it quite interesting. It's quite dark. But it's based on a book. I couldn't even tell you who wrote it. You know, I should really be professional and research these things. But I saw the cover again, and it had the lady who was in the lady that was in the TV series on the front. I thought, oh, I didn't realise it was based on a book. But yeah, I definitely want to give that a try. And I want to read The Handmaid's Tale again because I've not read it since school.
God, my teacher gave me that when I was 14 at school. I think she realised that I actually enjoyed reading, and you know, and I was writing something at the time as well, and she was like, "Read The Handmaid's Tale," and gave me that. And, I just remember it kind of like blowing my mind. Sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry. It's called Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a series.
Gone Girl also.
Yeah, they made a series of that, Sharp Objects, didn't they?
Yes, that's the cover that I saw. But I really want to read it, just based on the scenes I saw in the TV series.
Yeah. I haven't read Gillian Flynn yet. I want to get around to it because I hear that you know, the books are, you know, really good. So that is someone that I want to get around to, but I just haven't yet because there's just so much out there. Like, how do you get all these books read? There's just too many.
That's quite interesting. Sort of a question that's, I don't know, it's just popped into my head. Do you, as a female writer, do you experience discrimination at all for being a female, or because you publish under your own name and stuff, don't you? So how's it?
Well, that's kind of a difficult question, really, because
right.
So at the beginning of things, that it's difficult to know because I feel like anything that I'm going to experience will be in the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I've been published by small press, and I've just finished something which I'm hoping is going to be like the thing that I send to agents. So I suppose more I faced more things on YouTube and Twitter, really, like opinion wise. It's kind of because, like, I've shared some of the comments that I get on videos and things like that, where I like to I'm more sort of trying to comment now in my writing things that I experience, and I suppose it's difficult. Sort of, we're in a weird sort of political time, aren't we? And some people kindly to that sort of thing. So yeah, I do get some weird comments on social media. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did I say? I think I told you I think I told Leo this on his podcast. I did get some guy message me and saying that he wanted to watch me wee in a forest, and I don't know.
What the fuck?
I don't know why.
Will, have you been sending Madeleine messages?
You sure he didn't say fence?
Wow.
It was definitely a forest. He wanted me to wee on a bunch of trees or something. I don't know.
Wait, but now you didn't hear his voice, right? You just it was just typing.
It was a message.
He might have said, "I want to see you wee in a forest." Wee in a
Yeah, I mean he seemed quite keen on the idea.
Right. What prompted that? What message? What was the lead up to that?
Oh God, I think it was just one of those daft things where like, for example, if I see people send lots of my kid's going to school, excited posts about parents' first days of their kid's school or whatever, I'll do something daft. Like I had this plastic eyeball, and I said, it's my little eye's first day at school today. I'm very no, just like not making fun, but just wanting to get in on the act, I suppose. Feeling left out. But there was one, people were doing like top 10 things. They were like top 10 favorite, I don't know, restaurants or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't really know much about that sort of thing, so I just, as a joke, did like top 10 favorite toilets. made up such ridiculous stuff, but I thought it was so obviously like made up. It was like the toilet at the top of so and so volcano or something like that. It was just absurd. It was just ridiculous. And this guy said, well, that's what prompted the message, I guess. I don't know.
It might just be like some troll, There's a lot of trolls. I notice on YouTube, the more popular you get too. Like I see some people with thousands of subscribers, and like you'll get people just, giving them thumbs down and then saying things in the chat that are like have nothing to do with what the video is about. They just wanted to be a troll.
Well, this was on Facebook, and the messages before seemed quite genuine. Like we were having sort of like a fairly basic conversation before he then sort of DM'd me that.
Oh wow! Jesus!
What a charmer!
Yeah.
I think that might have been real.
Gosh, what does Bill think of that?
Yeah.
Well, I told him and he laughed. So
yeah, no, that's good. That's
he
good.
didn't seem that worried. I don't think he was going to lose me to a forest toilet lover.
He didn't get you in the car and drive you out to nearby woods, did he?
Jeez.
Too much effort. No.
And what is this thing about a forest? Like, is that like an English thing?
I don't know. No,
I
probably not.
honestly don't even know if this guy was English. I don't know. It didn't even come up in conversation actually until then. So I don't know. It'll always be a mystery.
I don't know why, but it's really tickled me. I know it's not funny, but it is at the same time.
Yeah.
No, it's not, but it kind of is.
Yeah.
It's kind of creepy too. It's actually a bit scary. It's
what? Like, I'm not gonna lie. It gets the adrenaline going when you get messages like that. You know?
Especially if they were normal. If they were normal and then they just say that out of nowhere, that's kind of like dark web stuff.
Definitely, because it makes you think like, because if you're having a normal conversation with someone and they seem fine, like it just makes like this is what makes me curious is when you see people out on the street and you meet people, you're only getting like the surface of who that person is, and they could be someone who then goes home and asks to watch people wee in forests. Like, you never know.
I was having a similar conversation with a friend at work actually the other day, because obviously I've got quite a unique sense of humour and stuff, and I can offend people sometimes. But yes, I do. I know I do. But I think, that stripped away, day to day, I mean, you can ask anyone who's close to me, or friends, family, my other half, my kids. I'm just such a normal, boring person.
Yeah.
And that sort of side of my personality is just silly, really. There's nothing serious about it. But then you might get someone who's very straight-laced and, and they're the ones that want you to piss on a fern somewhere,
Exactly. Like they're going to be more likely to sort of cover it up. The fact that you put it out there so much, like the kind of bawdy postcard type humour.
Yeah.
But you then contrast it with getting messages from someone wanting you to wee on a cabbage or something. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a bit bizarre, isn't it? I mean, if I sent you that, you'd probably just laugh, you'd just think, well, block me.
But a cabbage, though.
I don't know. Could be a cabbage.
What about pumpkin? It's Halloween nearly.
Pumpkin, yeah, you could get seasonal.
That could be like a holiday thing.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving and turkey.
I'm sure there's websites where they do that kind of thing. I mean,
Oh yeah, there's definitely got to be.
I saw a document. How do we get here? We always get to these places, don't we? Talking about that kind of thing.
It's me, I think.
I blame myself as well, because it always happens at some point. But anyway, I remember seeing a documentary where it was a larger lady, and she runs a website where she will pretend that she's been kidnapped, and she's got like a whole like dungeon kind of made up as a dungeon kind of thing. And she pretends to be kidnapped and like strapped in this chair and then fed this really like fatty food in a funnel,
Oh wow. Yeah. Those are like those fetishes, like the food fetishes and stuff.
Yeah, like feeder to the extreme.
Jesus. Like that scene in Freddy where he kept feeding the girl and then she exploded.
With them. I'm not into the 80s thing so much.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I know most people love it, the 80s thing, but no.
Freddy Krueger was good.
Yeah. I understand why people like it. Like, I get it, but
yeah,
not my bag.
I know Gary loves Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. It's just, I prefer like much older stuff.
What's your sort of era of horror then, Madeleine?
I really like and the anthology stuff like Amicus or
Gary Muller's.
Or
I like Hammer.
Yeah, or I love silent films actually. I'm a really huge silent film fan.
Right. Like Nosferatu or Metropolis.
I love Nosferatu. Yeah, there's like German expressionist films like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and The Fall of the House of Usher is really surrealist, and stuff like that, very shadowy kind of things.
Very, it's interesting. How did you get into stuff like that?
I think, well, the first one I saw was Metropolis, and that was. But I did creative writing at university, and one of the modules we did was film studies, and we watched. I think we watched Pandora's Box and Metropolis, and along with like later stuff like The Haunting, which I also love,
Yeah.
And I just kind of like I don't know. I feel like silent films are an acquired taste, but once you get into them, there's just so much. Like they're so artistic and like The Passion of Joan of Arc. It's not a horror film, but it's fantastic. You know, there's a whole wealth of stuff to watch.
Interesting. Anyway, guys, I'm going to have to go now. My dog's barking.
Chico.
Chico.
Yeah, I gotta
Chico's
go put a
barking.
TV stand together,
Oh,
Yeah.
and then I gotta cook.
You got to cook?
Oh yeah, it's earlier there.
Not
Yes.
meth.
No, no,
I'm gonna
Not
cook
yet.
food.
that comes later.
All right.
Yes. Before I piss.
I'm just about
piss
to go
on my
outside
friends.
and I'm going to go and piss in a forest just behind this.
I'm so surprised that's a thing. It's like, Jesus. I guess anything could be a thing.
Okay, yeah, anything really. I mean,
Yeah.
there are probably people who like to watch weeing on kittens and things like
Oh,
that.
jeez.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take it there. I don't know what happened.
I'm disgusted, Madeleine.
Don't talk about my people.
So, but I've got to kind of say thanks very much for coming on.
Yes.
It's been like the second or third time I've spoken to you. You're always a really good guest. Fortune stories. Fortune box. Fortune box. Sorry. I don't know where that came from.
Well, you know, near enough. You
Yeah, nearly there. You need to check out Fortune Box because it's awesome. It's a selection of short stories. It's a very short read, but it's very
Yes.
funny and very
Yes.
absurd. The front cover is awesome. It's basically Madeleine with a weird hat on and big eyes. So it's and it's only £7 on Amazon bargain.
or the ebook is cheaper. You know.
Or you could get the ebook for £2.28 in England,
Hmm.
which is about $7,000.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Or there's YouTube channels.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
You know, too.
If you're, yeah, absolutely.
One where I
Check them
talk
out.
stuff and one where I read stuff.
Yeah, and if you want to watch Madeleine go out into the woods, check out her YouTube channel.
Once you want me going to the woods, never contact me.
Oh, my God.
No, thanks very much for coming on.
Yes.
And we'll all share everything. And yeah, best of luck with everything. And keep us updated on the new book.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
See you guys. I'm going. Bye bye.
See ya.
Bye bye.
Of course I talk to myself. Sometimes I need expert advice.